Hello friends, and welcome to tonight's beer review. Tonight we're not going to be drinking a single beer, we are going to be doing a comparison. So the comparison today is going to be in between the Biersch Festbier and the Spaten Oktoberfest. So the Festbier is supposed to be very close to the German Oktoberfest style, whereas Spaten is of course a true German Oktoberfest. Now these are both Marzens. I was thinking of doing a third beer, but I've kind of already done a comparison in between the Festbier and the Biersch Marzen. So I wanted to do something where it's going to be a little bit it's going to be actually much more difficult to discern the difference in between the two. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. I have two glasses today with fairly same shape tops because I didn't want too much of a difference to show up there. Okay. Okay. So Spaten seems to be a bit more carbonated. Certainly formed a head a lot faster. Now you can't really see it from the camera, but the Biersch Festbier is slightly lighter than the Spaten Oktoberfest. They're pretty much the same color, but the Spaten seems to be just a shade darker amber. It also seems to be slightly more cloudy as well, whereas Festbier seems to be very clear. You can see here, this one is slightly more opaque. The head is dispersing faster on the Festbier than it is on the Spaten, but that might be because of the shape. This one has a slightly wider mouth. Now, as for head, it looks as if the Spaten is slightly more off-white than the Oktoberfest's more pure white head. Now, I'm going to do the nosing really quickly because Oktoberfest is disappearing. The Festbier is disappearing quickly. This one has much more of a malt-forward smell. This one is much stronger, but it also has that unfortunate skunk smell that I complained about with the last Spaten. I don't know why they continue to use green bottles. This one has a much more honeyed smell to it. And the hopping, the floral hopping is much more present. Which is strange because this is almost certainly older than this. It's getting kind of difficult to get a nose off of this one since the head's so dissipated already. But definitely smells a bit drier, smells much more bready towards the malts. Okay. Sweetness of the malts in the Spaten is very reminiscent of Heineken. It could just be an artifact of the skunking because whenever I have Heineken, it always smells very skunked. Very dry, crackery, sort of biscuity malts in the front. And spicy floral hop finish. Very dry all the way through and through. Not much. Just the slightest bit of sweetness in the mid palate and in the finish, but definitely dry. Thankfully, there's not much skunkiness to the taste. It's very minute. Oh, excuse me, except in the finish. Oh. There's almost a lemoniness to it. That's completely lacking in the Festbier. This is also very dry. The hop finish is much more bittering. Spicy, but not much floral aspects to it. Floral tends to burn off faster than the bittering and the spice does, I find. I should have gotten a glass of water to go and clean my palate. But actually, they seem very different, so. This is marginally sweeter than this, but both are dry, which is strange because whenever I have a Marzen, I expect something sweeter with the malts, but that's maybe because I mostly drink American-style Marzens. Spaten Oktoberfest is pretty much the only one. There's the Marzinger that I saw for sale, but I didn't pick it up. Maybe later. I find the lemoniness of the Spaten somewhat distracting from the malts. Given the lemoniness, it gives the malts almost a saltine cracker kind of feel to it. Whereas this is much more biscuity. And as it's warming, it's getting, sweetness is becoming a little bit more apparent. Now I'm enjoying this one a bit more because the hops don't seem to have declined this bit and there's no skunking. That said, I'm kind of curious, as I stated before, what this one tastes like fresh, especially off a draft. There's complexity there. You can taste some complexity. There's slight honeyed notes coming out as it warms up a bit. But, again, the lemoniness and the hops bittering, the bittering elements of the hops tend to overwhelm the rest of the complexity. Beautiful lacing, though. Look at that lacing. Can you see it? Yeah. When you see lacing like that, you know it's a well-made beer. trying to clean my palate off a little bit. Like I said, I should have gotten a glass of water. Sweeter still. Still not to the level of the Marzen though. There's some sweet notes emerging underneath it. More complexity as it warms. The bouquet is still pretty strong. So, in the end, what do I think? I go for this one for now. That said, this is not a drain pour. As I stated before, I'm really curious as to what it tastes like fresh on draft. I heard it's supposed to be amazing. Excuse me. So, there you have it, folks. 2 German-style Oktoberfest / Marzen beers. No green bottles, please. Put your beer in a dark bottle to prevent light striking. So, that is your comparative review for tonight. If you're a beer lover like me, I always suggest that you too try comparative reviews. It's a great way of testing your palate, especially for beers that are supposed to be of similar styles. So, that's your beer review for tonight, folks. Prost.